Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the Global Research Alliance Council Meeting 2022. Day 2. My name is Alfonso Arellano, and I will be your master of ceremony. Yesterday, we had a very productive day, which was highlighted by the chair handover to Chile and designation as an acceptance of the new vice chair. We also heard reports from the working groups in research, stocktake, and innovation, and had some words from Global Research Alliance Special Representative Mr. Hayden Montgomery. The Council also thanked the work and endorsed the terms of reference for the arrangement of the Special Representative and Enhanced Secretariat for the next 3 years term. Additionally, agreed to support the collaboration with the Global Methane Partnership, and if agreed, invite the IDF as a new partnership of the GRA. Please remember to keep your microphones off until it's your turn to speak. And now, continuing with day 2 of the meeting, we now move to the session of member or partners' announcements.
Good morning, colleagues. Good evening. Welcome to day 2 of this GRA Council meeting 2022. To move to the first agenda item for today, prior to the meeting, the GRA asked members and partners to provide statements and updates during the meeting. We received 4 expressions of interest for such an expression of interest, and we will present them following in this section. Additionally, we received a written statement from the Netherlands that you already received by email in an email from the Secretariat today. The first intervention will be from Mr. Carl Walsh from Ireland. Please, Carl, if you could turn on your camera. We are ready to give you the floor.
Yes, thanks very much. Thank you, and hello everybody. My name is Carl Walsh. I was recently appointed as the new head of research in the Irish Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Marine. Some of you probably knew my predecessor, Richard Howell, who retired last year, and Richard told me about all the excellent work taking place here in the GRA, so I'm looking forward to being involved with this and with my other Irish colleagues, John Harrison from the Ministry here and Sinead Waters of Teagasc. Just in terms of some Irish announcements that I briefly want to mention that will be of interest. Firstly, Ireland introduced new climate legislation last year, and this provides the framework for meeting what are now legally binding targets of net zero emissions no later than 2050 and a 51% reduction in emissions by the end of this decade, with a target for the agricultural sector to reduce its emissions by 22 to 30% by 2030. And the sector will also have new emission ceilings set for it, and they will be published later this year. Secondly, late last year, we launched a new 10-year agri-food strategy called Food Vision 2030. This takes an integrated food systems approach, and you'll be glad to hear that the strategy specifically calls out the need for continued research collaboration with the GRA in areas such as reducing biogenic methane from pastoral systems at scale, animal breeding for reduced emissions, soil carbon sequestration, and more besides. Thirdly, as funding partners, Ireland and the GRA have recently collaborated on a number of initiatives, including the European Research Area Network Joint Action on Circularity in Mixed Crop and Livestock Farming Systems, with an emphasis on greenhouse gas mitigation, and the European Joint Programme on Agricultural Soil Management. Fourthly, following the kick-off meeting last June by the newly established Circular Food Systems Network within the Integrative Research Group of the GRA, researchers and policymakers from New Zealand and Ireland are collectively carrying out a short case study that examines the impact, opportunities, and knowledge gaps of circular approaches in grassland farming systems on greenhouse gas emission reductions. And the GRA CFS have allocated some funding to enable that work with a report due at the end of March. And finally, I just want to highlight that Ireland also joined the newly established Agricultural Innovation Mission for Climate, and that's going to see us further increase our climate research funding, including in areas such as pasture-based methane reducing feed additives, multi-species swards, and carbon sequestration practices. So thank you very much for allowing me to update you from Ireland, and I'm looking forward to today's meeting.
Thank you, Arlan, for this statement. We now move forward to the statement from New Zealand, and we will welcome Phil Holding to do so. Please, Phil, if you could turn on your camera. Thank you. You got the floor.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui. Thank you to Chile for hosting this meeting and to our Australian friends for your work as the chair in the past year. My name is Phil Holding. I'm the Director of International Policy for the New Zealand Ministry for Primary Industries. I'm pleased to provide a brief update on some of New Zealand's activities under the Global Research Alliance and elsewhere. New Zealand has been working to bring together government, industry, Indigenous and researcher priorities to form a cohesive research and development plan to accelerate the development of solutions for farmers. Like our Irish friends, we have a legally binding target to reduce methane from agriculture by 10% by 2030, and then by 24 to 47% by 2050. We know that having a cohesive research and development plan and these priorities are shared by other GRA partners, and we see collaboration in the GRA as a key way to accelerate those research efforts. It's been excellent to see over the last year or so since we last came together in the council, in the global environment, an enhanced focus on research to reduce emissions from agriculture, including through the launch of the Agriculture Investment Mission for Innovation Mission for Climate, the Pathway to Net Zero initiative in dairy and other such efforts, including the various coalitions emerging from the UN Food Systems Summit. Because agriculture emissions are both a domestic and international issue for New Zealand, we are collaborating in research across all regions of the world to develop and share technologies to inhibit ruminant methane, breed low emission animals, develop remote and proximal sensing options, explore regenerative and circular practices, sequester soil carbon, and many others. And we are looking forward to forming further collaborations through the GRA flagships. Last year, the Ministry for Primary Industries was pleased to sign a memorandum of arrangement with the Regional Fund for Agricultural Technology, Fontagro, formalizing our long-standing partnership to co-fund research across Latin America. And we're looking forward to working further with Fontagro and supporting future research collaborations. Capability building in this area is a key priority for New Zealand in the GRA. We're very pleased to continue to support ASEAN and Africa in regional activities to improve greenhouse gas inventories. These programs will build capability to measure regional emissions factors from livestock and improve agricultural greenhouse gas inventories, supporting accurate emissions reporting and identification of climate smart management practices. New Zealand and Samoa have continued support for the Indigenous Research Network through the Whakatohea Undergraduate Fellowship Program and Exchange, although progress has been limited by COVID restrictions. New Zealand welcomes the increased engagement of young, climate change aware Indigenous youth achieved by Kohi Marama, a collaboration of 35 marae on the east coast of New Zealand through the South Pacific Workshop, which was the first of their regional online workshops. We'll continue to support the leadership emerging from these workshops. Finally, New Zealand has continued to support for the GRA scholarship programs such as Cliff Grads, though travel restrictions have of course delayed many awardees' ability to travel to their host institute and the Roof Forum. New Zealand has, however, provided alternate opportunities and online workshops to offer further capability building and networking opportunities to ensure the ongoing development and engagement of early career scientists. So thank you very much again to our hosts and to fellow GRA members, and we just really appreciate the opportunity to continue to collaborate through the GRA. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand, for your statement and for your continued support to the GRA work over the years. We now invite the statement from Germany, and for that we will have with us to Mr. Wolfgang Zornbach. Wolfgang, if you could have your camera on, please. Thank you. The floor is yours. We see you. If you could speak. There is a problem, it seems. We see you with no problem, Wolfgang.
Now it seems to work.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Germany. And I want to start with a big thank you to, firstly, Australia for the chairmanship during the last period, and now for Chile for taking over and organizing this meeting really brilliantly. And of course, I wanted to thank Hayden and the whole team for the hard work they did in the last year, in the past. And I know from my chairmanship that it is much more than only organizing a council meeting. It's daily work and it's really hard work. And I can tell you that we will go on to support GRA in person. You heard her yesterday, it's Nina Grasnik, who is responsible for this GRA support from Germany, and that will continue during the next years. Some few words to what happened in Germany during the last year. Of course, we have also legally binding targets until 2030 or also until 2045, not only for agriculture, but also for the LULUCF sector. And as you may have heard, we have a new government since Christmas. And now we have got a green minister, Cem Özdemir. And of course, if you have got a green minister, climate change is #1 priority. So it's much to do in our ministry. If you look at the last GFFA or at the current G7 presidency, climate-related items are of high priority in the overall work. We are starting to develop our second soil inventory that will take until 2028 for all over Germany. And we are working with demonstration farms on soil carbon sequestration and spend more than 20 million euros for these demonstration farms during the next 5 years. We will start with a research program with about 50 million euros this year on climate-related issues in agriculture. And regarding GRA, we are happy that we can support the flagship farm to regional scale integration network, taking over the coordination and acting as a council champion. And we also support the idea of the new flagship nitrogen fertilizers from Fontagro. And I know that the scientists from the Thünen Institute, where Nina is working, that they will support it as well. Maybe just 2 minutes time for me. I could tell you much more, but if you have any questions, please ask these questions. Thank you very much to all of you, and have a good meeting.
Thank you, Germany, for your statement and for joining us live today. Finally, we invite Canada with Mr. Pascal Michel for their statement. Pascal, if you are already with us, thank you for joining us.
Bonjour. Oui, bonjour à tous. Thank you all. My name is Pascal Michel, and I recently joined actually Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada as a Director General in the Science and Technology branch. My great pleasure to join my distinguished colleagues here at the GRA. Great pleasure to be here this morning. First, like my colleagues, I'd like to express my thanks to Australia for a great leadership last year, and to Chile and Spain for their respective important roles as chair and vice chair of the council. Canada very much looks forward to working with all of you in the way forward. I'd like to give a short highlight of Canada's commitment in addressing climate change. Like our GRA colleagues, we firmly believe that science and innovations are key tools to enable the agriculture sector in maintaining productivity while addressing priority environmental issues related to water, soil, and biodiversity, including the development and adoptions and practices and technologies to mitigate agriculture GHG emissions. In this context, the government of Canada is investing more than $4 billion over the next 10 years to establish a natural climate solution funds and supporting activities to build a more resilient economy and healthier, greener future. So it includes three types of activities to enhance a secure nature-based carbon sequestration. First, a restoration of degraded ecosystems. Second, improve land management practices, especially in agriculture and forestry. And thirdly, conservations of high carbon storage ecosystems at risk. So these activities will help improve management of agricultural lands to increase carbon sequestrations, reduce emissions, and generate environmental co-benefits for biodiversities and resilience. So as part of these efforts, I'd like to mention our ongoing works towards the establishment of a Canada-wide network of regional collaborations that is known as Living Labs, co-led by farmers, scientists, and other sectorial stakeholders. Together, they will develop and share management practices that best store carbon and mitigate climate change. This work will also help protect biodiversity, improve water and soil quality, and strengthen farmers' bottom line. So since Living Labs were endorsed by G20 ministers of agriculture in 2018, we have been collaborating with our partners to advance this approach globally. So on March 1st, Canada will be hosting the second annual Living Lab Laboratory Workshop. We're pretty proud of this, which will include an international panel discussion with representative of the USDA and LTAR network, INRAE, and the European Commission. Panelists will provide insight on how to build a stronger network of networks on Living Labs through the Living Soils for the Americas and other initiatives. I'd like to reaffirm Canada's support for the objective of the AIM4C and our ongoing cooperation as a government partners in this initiative. Yesterday morning, Canada's Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food participated in the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate Ministerial meeting hosted by the United Nations and the United Arab Emirates, where she reiterated Canada's commitment to working alongside other countries and organizations to support collaborative research at future events, including the upcoming meeting of G20 Ministers of Agriculture and COP27, of course, in Egypt. International corporations through initiatives like the GRA remains an important part of our approach to climate change, helping to ensure the advancements of research and innovations are shared and adapted to all conditions. Canada is proud to be involved in co-leading the integrated research group with our colleagues from Australia and France, and to be actively engaged in the livestock and crop research groups and various other GRA activities. So thank you again for the opportunity to bring this a short update to your attention and to reiterate our strong commitment to the GRA community in pressing forward the important work that is ahead of us. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada, for your statement and for your continued support of the activities of the GRA. As I explained before, we received a written statement from the Netherlands yesterday that was provided to you all by the Secretariat. We would like to make sure if the Netherlands would like to express their highlights of that statement, there is an opportunity now to do so. Perfect. We can see you, but we cannot hear you. If you can unmute your microphone, we will be ready for you.
This is better?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you again for giving me the floor. Sjoerd Krij on behalf of the Netherlands. I would like to introduce also my colleague Sascha Bolleman from the Knowledge Department. Together we are the delegation. We assembled this written announcement in which we address some developments that plays a large role within the area of agriculture and food systems, especially the UN Food Systems Summit with a pre-summit at Rome, organized by FAO. I think that's a very, very important strategic design of how to look at agriculture, but then from a broader perspective. And as already other speakers mentioned, what happens at COP26, we really appreciate the cooperation with several other countries and organizations to have a side event over there organized. I think I will stick to this, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Netherlands, for your statement. We will provide the floor for several hands that are already raised, and then we can open the floor for questions or comments. To start with, we have a requirement from China to provide a statement. With Jun Li, if you could turn on your camera, we are ready for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And many thanks to the excellent work of the GRA last year. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. I will report the progress on address climate change in China. Since last year, China began to establish a policy system. We called it 1+N policies. Just before COP26, China issued the general guidance document. It titled Working Guidance for Carbon Dioxide Peaking and Carbon Neutrality. So just 2 days later, another document was issued. It's namely Action Plan to Peak Carbon Dioxide Emissions and Achieve Carbon Neutrality by 2060. So in addition to the main document, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs also formulated the action plan on greenhouse gas emission reduction and carbon sequestration. It was approved by the ministry and now is under consideration by the central government. 10 actions were proposed in the action plan. The first one is the mitigation of methane emissions from rice paddies, and then is the mitigation of nitrous oxide emissions from cropland. The third one is the mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions from livestock sector. And also regarding to the machine, the agriculture and the fishing machine, we will develop energy saving machine and the digital agriculture development for resource saving. And then is the enhancement of carbon sequestration through the application of organic fertilizer and amendment of straw, reduced tillage, plantation of green manure. And then is the development of bioenergy, including anaerobic fermentation of manure and straw. Next is innovation, research and development of mitigation technologies. And we also propose to develop standards for MRV greenhouse gas emissions. And then is the improvement of methodology and data collection, monitoring network, and establishment of the information systems. In addition to the research, in addition to the policy development, we also have several collaborative projects with the CCAF's CCEC on methane reduction from livestock sectors. And another one, international project related to manure treatment, utilization, and greenhouse gas reduction was supported by the innovation project of Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Several international research institutions from UK, USA, the Netherlands, Germany, GRA, and the CCEC was partners of this project. Professor Dong is the project investigator. If anyone is interested in the project, please contact with Professor Dong. That's my intervention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, China, for your statement and for joining us live today. Following with the requirements for the floor, we have an statement from Brazil through Gustavo Moser. Gustavo, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here once more, and the GRA. It's been a long journey, and it's definitely been a very fruitful journey for the GRA. I'm very glad to see Chile step up for this round of doing its job as a leader in the GRA, and rest assured Brazil is going to be mostly helpful, and will be on your side on that journey. We also would like to thank Australia for the excellent job done on such difficult times during the last year. I'm very glad to see how the GRA has evolved in terms of understanding the relations and challenges on agriculture related to climate change, and particularly the interlinkages between adaptation and mitigation. This has been a very long journey, and I can understand for many countries, but Brazil has always understood that interlinkages. We have from very long time been advocating for the GRA to understand that and move into that in that particular direction. That's something that is natural for Brazil, because it's part of what we have learned throughout of our journey in understanding tropical agriculture, and how important sustainability is as a core for dealing tropical agriculture, maintaining the sustainability and enhancing elements of adaptation as well as mitigation. So this is something that was very important, and I hope we can enhance this as Chile step up as coordinator of the GRA during this year. There's definitely a lot of lag behind in terms of understanding and dealing with the aspects related to adaptation. Nevertheless, mitigation has never been more important than nowadays, and it's definitely with the mood and spirit that comes after COP26 that we have to move very quickly. Brazil has committed itself to enhance its NDCs. We have partnered with the United States and other colleagues with the Aim for Climate initiative, as well as Methane initiative, and we have also engaged with specific targets for deforestation. So Brazil is very committed to understanding and dealing with robust science on the aspects related to climate change and agriculture. We've been developing our national policy very successfully for the last 10 years, what we call the ABC plan. And we are now in a phase of redesigning it, looking at a new phase, what we call the ABC Plus, bringing along landscape approach, bringing along more innovative technologies. And we urge countries and that want to understand more what Brazil is doing to share and bring along any information we will be glad to share. Tropical agriculture is very different from agriculture that is done on temperate soil, temperate regions. But it has a lot of particularities and a lot of challenges. Brazil has a lot of a long history of research and development in that sense. So we are glad that we could share and enhance collaboration. Many challenges are going to come from developing countries now with the implementation of the Paris Agreement. So we definitely think that collaboration in terms of MRV and understanding how to measure and verify all those elements that are very important for national inventories is of utmost importance. And we definitely think that the GRA has a very important role to play in terms of collaboration between countries, between regions, in terms of sharing and understanding the experiences that had come from other countries. And we hope that we can foster this collaboration in a very fruitful manner here at the GRA. Brazil is engaged with developing long-term strategies research for climate change. In Embrapa, we have what we call the portfolio of research on climate change. That's been a very long initiative as well. And we definitely think there's a lot of room for collaboration between our researchers. So, well, we hope that we can do more. Of course, we are limited by fund, and Brazil has been through very difficult, financial time. But we have a lot of, human resources. What we need is more fostering and enhancing collaboration and making sure that we can leverage that. But again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brazil, for your statement. The following request for the floor comes from the USA. So we invite Mr. Marlene Eve to join us live for this statement.
Thank you. And thank you to Chile for hosting the GRA this year. The meeting has been excellent so far, and I look forward to ongoing discussions. I just have two brief announcements. The U.S. continues to prioritize the development and deployment of climate-smart agricultural practices and technologies that can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase carbon storage. On part of that is theme, the Secretary of Agriculture this week has co-chaired the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate Ministerial in Dubai. And I also wanted to acknowledge that our partners from New Zealand and from Chile both recognized the GRA during their remarks at that ministerial, and I thank them for making those connections. And so I think the connectivity between the GRA and the AIM4C is really strong, and I'm excited to see how we can partner together as international bodies to increase greenhouse gas mitigation. The second thing I wanted to mention is that the U.S. for many years has been a co-chair of the Croplands Research Group of the GRA. And for the past several years, Dr. Mark Liebig has been our co-chair on that group. And we have rotated him off and are replacing Dr. Liebig with Dr. Hiro Galani, one of our outstanding soil scientists who many of you may know. She has worked internationally and has collaborated with others through the work of the Croplands Research Group for many years. She's from our USDA Agricultural Research Service research location in Pendleton, Oregon, where she works on soil carbon under croplands and how to enhance soil carbon capture and sequestration, and also how to model soil carbon. And she will bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to that co-chair role. So we thank Dr. Liebig for his many years of service in that role, and are excited to have Dr. Galani join Dr. Rosa Mascara Lasada from Spain and Dr. Ladislau Martin Nido from Brazil as co-chairs of the Croplands Research Group. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the USAID for this statement. I would like to invite any other countries or partners that would like to provide a statement or a comment, either in the chat or by raising their hands now. This would be the time for you to do so. I'll give you. If there are no further statements, we thank all the countries participating so far actively in this first section of our meeting. And we will move to the second agenda item for today. This is the report from the research area of the GRA through the research group's co-chairs. These reports have been previously recorded and will be projected now. We will have presentation from the Cropland Research Group, then the Livestock Research Groups, the Integrative Research Group, the Paddy Rice Research Group, and finally, recommendations for the Council. So we go to those reports now.
Greetings to everyone from Global Research Alliance Council meeting. This is the Cropland Research Group report. I am Ladislau Martin Neto, and together the co-chairs Maria Rosa Mosqueira Lozada and Mark Lipp, you make this presentation. Next. This is our team of co-chairs. I am from Embrapa, Brazil. Rosa is from University of Santiago Compostela, Spain, and Mark is from USDA Agriculture Research Service, United States. Next. Our recent achievements, you will give information about our annual Cropland Research Group meeting. Was held recently, January 19. You had 40 participants from 14 countries. The agenda was the general annual countries report, network activities, and you gave emphasis in the mitigation co-benefits with a general concept presentation given by Dr. Charles Rice from Kansas State University. And you organized an exercise on mitigation co-benefits with all participants based in 5 network teams. The main aspects addressed in this meeting were carbon neutrality with engagement of private corporation in the environment, social and governance context, theme of circularity, and the co-benefits by themselves with the identification of opportunities for new initiative. Next. And just to highlight the concept of mitigation co-benefits, they are outcomes that arise subsequently from greenhouse gas mitigation practices. You address several biophysical aspects, some economic and human dimension as well. Biophysical as soil water retention, soil biodiversity, and so on. And co-benefits can serve as additional motives in the design and implementation of greenhouse gas mitigation policies. Next. And you have 6 research network activities, and in these several ongoing projects and activities. And in this report, you would like to call attention on the special session in Soil Science Society of American Journal in the issue of September-October 2001, led by Conservation Agriculture Research Network. Next. In this special session, the theme was the role of conservation agriculture and mitigation of greenhouse gas emission and enhancing carbon sequestration in soil. Guest editor Jen Johnson, Charles Rice, and Greg Drury. You had 10 peer-reviewed papers published, 7 field studies, 2 modeling studies, 1 meta-analysis paper. The conservation agriculture practice includes were conservation tillage, crop rotation, cover crops, residue management. Next. And this was also highlighted by the Crop Soil Agronomy magazine, specifically the paper on intensification of no-till agriculture system, an opportunity for carbon sequestration. It was a meta-analysis data highlights results from 121 field sites, 90 countries, and 6 continents. The authors are Rodrigo Nicoloso from Embrapa, Brazil, and Charles Rice from Kansas State University, also showing the cooperation between the different countries. Next. Regarding the collaborative capacity building activities, you have maintained our webinar series. In this 21 year, you had 3 webinars, one in March on soil carbon sequestration potential net, given by Dr. Marcelo Beltran from Argentina. In May, you had the full inversion tillage presentation from Dr. Mike Barry from New Zealand. In December, a presentation on agroforest given by Dr. Anastasia Pantera from Greece. Also, you have maintained our Cropland Research Group newsletter, released quarterly, and other activities as social media to amplify activity. Our annual meeting was, as I mentioned before, everything's ongoing. Next. And regarding the topic on main ambitions, to maintain network and special activities of Cropland Research Group, running with new initiatives and scientific themes as inorganic carbon balance. This is an ongoing effort that can be obtained, for example, using LIBS techniques, a laser-based tool, as in this picture, to support scientific cooperation, new project, and the elaboration of a new flagship, as this also related as N fertilizer, as ongoing effort you are involved. And also you have considered possibility to provide guidance to all potential stakeholders on topics on carbon neutrality, co-benefits, and circularity. Such guidance can take form of decision aids, outcomes from Cropland Research Group lead publications, and naturally to include with emphasis those aspects related to co-benefits on mitigation, greenhouse gas emission practice within Cropland research activities. Next. Regarding the recommendation, next please. Cropland Research Group inputs, you have suggested to consider Global Research Alliance strategy and country members' interest to work in efficient mechanisms to establish close cooperation with private corporations on carbon neutrality, circularity, mitigation co-benefits in the environment, social, and governance context, ESG. Identify research topics where synergistic outcomes are likely between Global Research Alliance research groups. To provide explicit allocation of time for co-chair position, not an add-on duty. Also incentivize the position. To consider a set duration of service co-chair, example up to determined number of years. Thank you. Next, please. So I would like to thank you very much for your kind attention on behalf of Maria Rosa Mosqueira Lozada, Mark Lieb, and myself, Ladislau Martinez. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Dewhurst, one of the co-chairs of the Livestock Research Group, working alongside Harry Clark from New Zealand and Sinead Waters from Ireland. And I'm going to give you an update on the work of the Livestock Research Group. Our most recent annual Livestock Research Group meeting was held virtually again in October 2021. And the link here will show you the more detail about the annual meeting. If you want to get more detail, have a look there. The meeting was chaired by the 3 co-chairs. We had 92 participants from 43 member countries and 9 partner organizations were involved. The meeting provided a great opportunity for the network coordinators to provide updates about their work. And we had extensive discussions about future opportunities in particular. So some of the scientific priorities that were identified in the meeting included ideas for flagship projects in the areas of feed additives and rumen microbiome. And some of that discussion features elsewhere in this council meeting. We had a great presentation from Harry Clark about science into practice, and we're really challenged about the urgency of the need to translate science into practice. And so we'll be prioritizing any projects looking at behavioral change and knowledge exchange in our area. We also identified some good opportunities for collaboration between networks within the Livestock Research Group. For example, between the large databases held by the feed and nutrition networks and the manure management networks, bringing together large data about methane emissions and about nitrous oxide and other emissions from manures. Also opportunities to bring together expertise on methane proxies and microbial genomics from within different networks within the Livestock Research Group. The other priority that we spoke about at the annual meeting was increasing the involvement from low and middle income countries in all of our activities. And a good example of this was the recent IRANET call on circularity. Just to quickly scoot through the different networks and say a little bit about each one. The Animal Selection Genetics and Genomics Network is a really strong, well-established group with over 150 members. They had a really super workshop, 3-hour workshop on rumen proxies last June, which was really well attended, and there was great discussion. And I really felt for the chair of that session, who was having to manage a huge amount of interest and a huge amount of discussion. That has led to production of a review about methane proxies, and there's now work to develop a collaborative project in the area. The Animal Health Network is now under new leadership. We welcome Nick Wheelhouse and Seda Özkan to leadership of that network, and they have some really exciting ideas, particularly about linking work on the greenhouse gas emissions intensity implications of animal health with other global animal health networks. For example, the Global Burden of Animal Disease Network, FAO, and GalvMed. And they're beginning to build momentum within that network. Their most recent webinar had 32 participants. The Rumen Microbial Genomics Network is a really strong network that has a number of well-funded collaborative projects such as Rumen Predict and Master, and now a new European Union project, Holoruminant, that's just kicked off, providing a strong core to this network. And as usual, this network has meetings that link with other discipline-based meetings in the area. The 12th International Symposium on Gut Microbiology. This network usually links in with meetings of the ROWET-INRA grouping. Feed and Nutrition Network has a new chair coming in with David Llanes Ruiz from Spain. And the members of this group have made major contributions in terms of major review papers in a number of areas. A few years ago in the areas of enteric methane emissions, but latterly making contributions to major review on feed additives. The Global Network and Capturing Effects of Diet on Emissions from Ruminant Systems, or CEDARS project, has been a unifying project for this network. And there's been major advances in developing and growing 2 major enteric methane mitigation databases. Particularly want to acknowledge the efforts of this group in increasing their working with partners in South America and Southeast Asia. And that's been strengthened through GRA's role in recent funding calls. The Feed and Nutrition Network ran a virtual workshop in November 2021 and reviewed these international projects. Lastly, the Manure Management Network held a webinar back in February to talk about 2 of their major database projects, DataMan and MELS. DataMan has now completed, but MELS is a project focusing on housing and storage systems in relation to emissions from livestock manures. It's really an extension of the DataMan project and will run until the end of this year. So this group has made major advances in linking many other projects funded from national sources around the globe, projects in refining inventories, investigating mitigation technologies, improving nutrient efficiency, and informing policy. So thinking about some of our ambitions going forward, of course, as the co-chairs of the Livestock Research Group, will continue to support the work of these networks, providing significant support to help the networks, particularly those that don't have major core projects, to try to get that core into the networks. In these COVID times, and hopefully we're coming out of COVID times, the programs of webinars have worked really well for most of the networks and will continue alongside the face-to-face meetings that will occur allied to conferences in each of the relevant fields. In terms of refreshing leadership, we have new leadership and new ideas in both the Animal Health Network and the Feed and Nutrition Network, and that's good to see. In terms of funding, the co-chairs will work with the leads of the different networks in terms of developing and signposting funding opportunities for smaller items such as capability development. And all the time we're looking for opportunities to build larger, globally based collaborative projects, facilitating dialogue among scientists from different GRA member nations to increase membership and involvement in the networks. Collaboration with key organizations across our field is an important area for us, working on capability development and improved livestock industries. And some recent examples of this include GRA providing technical support for a new project for the Global Dairy Platform, working with FAO and other partner organizations on a project called Pathways to Net Zero. Previously working with CCAFs to produce a technical manual providing evidence for effects and mechanisms of different methane inhibitors. And with New Zealand government funding, there's a strong emphasis on implementing inventory development and mitigation research in East Africa and ASEAN countries. Another major aspect of the work of the group and the networks is strategic literature reviews and horizon scanning to find priority science areas for collaborative activities. And there have been recent reviews produced in the areas of methane proxy measurements, rumen microbiology, particularly in relation to enteric methane, and biological nitrogen inhibitors.
I'm Pamela Josie from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, and I'm a co-chair of the Integrative Research Group along with Jean-Francois Susana and Lee Nelson. We are presenting today on behalf of the Integrative Research Group. This group met virtually in June 24 and 25 of 2021, having reports from different countries and our networks, as well as some of our major projects. Next. These are some of the networks of the Integrative Research Group. We've been very thankful this past year to have very stable leadership, but we are having a few changes. Lee Nelson will be replaced by Matthew Bartlett from Agriculture, Water and Environment in Australia. Thank you, Lee, for your time on the Integrative Research Group. For our Soil Carbon Sequestration Network, Pete Smith and Jean-Francois Susana are continuing. Our Farm to Regional Scale Integration Network has Klaus de Blitz, Jelto Zimmer, and Nina Grasnick leading that from the Thunen Institute. And Circular Food Systems is led by Karen Andervey, Flavia Casu, and Henk Vandermeen from Wageningen University Research. Both these networks really just got started last year, and so we're very thankful for the continued leadership of those two. Inventories and Nationally Determined Contribution Support Network is led by Hazel Tomlin from New Zealand, Nagoni Sharinda from Morocco, and Richard Eckert from University of Melbourne. The group has asked for new leadership as Richard is retiring, I guess. Thank you, Richard, for your many years with the Integrative Research Group and the Inventories Network. The people coming on are Natalie Doran Brown from the University of Melbourne and also Mai Van Trin from Vietnam. In terms of the achievements and ambitions of our networks, Farm to Regional Scale Integration, as I mentioned, had their kickoff in May of 2021 and had 48 participants. They generated a work plan for the year, and some of the main outcomes are listed here, namely being a webinar series. They've had 3 webinars and the recordings are available. They also initiated a flagship project on GHG mitigation in cattle farming. How much is possible, where, and what are the economic implications on farm? In terms of ambitions for the next year, they would like to continue to develop this flagship, getting support from the GRA council members, producing their first results, hopefully by June, and producing a joint publication by the end of the year. They want to examine options for flagship project in GHG mitigation economics in crop production to go along with the livestock work, continue the webinar series, and update the website after the council meeting. Next. The Circular Food Systems Network had their kickoff workshop in June as well in 2021. This diagram illustrates some of the outcomes of that event. They had 57 participants from 36 different countries and a lot of different outputs. A very important thing that came out of that was a number of case studies that started these new global collaborations. In the map there, you can see some of the different projects that have started up. In terms of their outlook for 2022, they will be looking to produce a white paper on circular food systems across the world, share the results of these case studies, align with some AeroNet projects, have a session at Circular at WRU conference, as well as have some thematic discussion groups, an important one which is exploring useful indicators for circularity. And I will pass this on now to Jean-Francois Susana to discuss our other networks.
Thank you, Pamela. So the next network is the soil carbon network that we co-lead with PITSNIS. We had a strong project, CIRCASA, funded by the European Commission and expanding on several world regions, the cooperation on soil carbon research. And now we have the next project, which is aiming at operationalizing this international research cooperation, so having a consortium on soil carbon. So we have here a strategic research agenda with 4 pillars, including the monitoring, reporting, and verification of soil carbon, the innovations with agroecological and technological aspects, and the knowledge co-creation. So with this new project, this IRC will be launched, and it will be expanded to non-agricultural land uses. And so we have to include in this IRC research, private sector, and public sector. Also, the Soil Carbon Network worked on how to accelerate the social technical transitions for soil carbon, including agricultural options, including some MRV methods, and some scaling mechanisms, including finance and de-risking, and the public policies. So this has led to the launch of a soil carbon farming network that is spanning a number of European countries, but has also international connections. And we look in the expansion of this network about soil carbon farming initiatives. The next network is, as already mentioned, the INDC network that has quarterly newsletters, had a network meeting in June last year with 60 participants, including inventory development and agricultural mitigation policies. They also organized an agricultural compilers meetings with a survey of the struggle that compilers have with data, with finance, with emission factors. And they have identified 2 focus areas: how to create a resource summarizing the agricultural sector methods with easier search and easier understandings, and with the IPCC guidelines and the formatted inventories, and also having a set of guidelines for proper validation of emission reductions and potential for governments to formally issue carbon credits. So these are 2 important focus areas where support from the council members is also needed. And just to show you what could be in the future the overall ambition of the Integrated Research Group, it would be with support of all networks, but also strong cooperation with the other research groups, such as the Livestock Research Group that studies net zero carbon dairying, the cropland and rice research groups. It would be to have studies of pilot carbon neutral farms. And this is also timely because we have large projects that has been funded now in Europe on carbon neutral farms, where they look into systemic innovations with demonstration farms, lead commercial farms, and how could you further replicate and disseminate such innovations. So with this, I would like to stop and thank sincerely all my colleagues contributing to the IRG, and thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Yas Hosen, one of the co-chairs of Paddy Rice Research Group. On behalf of the research group, I'd like to explain our major activities since the last council meeting held and our plans. In April and May of last year, we co-hosted a webinar with International Rice Research Institute, IRI, researchers from IRI, and one of its partners introduced 4 new tools for monitoring, reporting, and verification of greenhouse gas mitigation in rice. In Asia, the MIRSA-3 project is in progress, targeting Southeast Asia to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from rice paddies while maintaining or increasing grain yields over the long term. This project is funded by the government of Japan with the cooperation of Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, Vietnam, and IRI of CGIAR. Its project meeting was held in November of last year. In Americas, More Rice with Less Emission and Less Water Consumption project and More Productive and Sustainable Rice for Latin America project are the main projects implemented on a multilateral basis. The former concerns the application of a water-saving irrigation technology to reduce methane emissions in South America, funded by Fontagro, with the cooperation of Colombia, Peru, Chile, CIAT, and CCAFs of CGIAR, and FLA. A part of the results was presented in a book reviewing 100 years of rice crop in Chile. The latter is related to the spread of low-input organic farming technologies, which is also expected to reduce methane emissions due to water saving. This project is also funded by Fontagro with the cooperation of Chile, Panama, and Argentina. Our major multilateral projects are just coming to an end. So regarding the ongoing projects, we will work on summarizing their results while executing their final stages as planned. For example, in the MIRSA-3 project, we plan to publish these papers by next year. At the same time, we are thinking of launching new projects. In Asia, the possibility of a successor project of MIRSA-3 is being explored. Research institutions in Malaysia and Japan are planning to have a collaboration to develop local emission factors in Malaysia. Also, Japan and the US are preparing a research collaboration on climate change. which is expected to start in this year. In Americas, we will discuss the launch of new projects at the next Americas subgroup meeting planned to be held in July of this year. Also in Africa, we would like to start some kind of activity. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sinead Waters, and I am co-chair of the Livestock Research Group. And today I'm going to present the Joint Research Group key messages or recommendations to the Council. So just in general, similar to last year, challenges continued in 2021 due to the disruptions from COVID-19. And these mainly involved that the research groups and the networks had to continue to adopt new ways of working and have been able to advance our collaborative efforts. Really, we've continued to use webinars and remote working meetings to basically communicate with each other across the globe. And this has worked very well. There's been greater reach by virtual interactions that has strongly benefited the GRA community. Also, the networks continue to need support and encouragement to seek new opportunities to involve the low middle income countries. And really, we saw success from this in the more recent Aerogas funding call in the EU in 2021, which really allowed us to bring countries from the LMIC's countries into research funded projects. And some of these have really been successful. Also, another message to Council is the need to develop greater links from research to knowledge transfer and policy. And this really came out very prominently in our own annual meeting back in October. And this was one of the main findings from our the members of the livestock research groups, that we need to bring a lot of the research right through to knowledge transfer and to policy so it can be implemented across the globe. Also, in terms of messages to Council, we need assistance from Council to publicise our resources that are available within our networks to policy and to industry for application. For example, resources such as the DataMan, this is a database as part of the manure management network in the LRG. We also plan to work with Council to develop our country pages and keep those live, including things like case studies, and that would be very useful. Capability development is continuing, although international travel restrictions did impose limitations again in 2021. But we're hoping now, as restrictions lift across the globe, that these can continue. And we'd like to thank the GRA member countries for their continued support in very challenging situations. In terms of the co-chairs and the networks, we have a tri-chairing arrangement in place for most of our research groups. And we feel that this arrangement is working really well because there's less, I suppose, emphasis on, a lot of work, the heavy workload on one or two people. We also have had regular virtual meetings, which have continued through 2021. And we hope to have more face-to-face meetings in the coming year. And we'd like to thank the countries who have increased their support to existing co-chairs and provided support to new co-chairs, because this makes a difference. And really our message is, if countries want to have a co-chair, that they need to provide this support. Because some co-chairs are still unsupported, which limits their ability to engage, to travel, and basically to get involved in a lot of the GRA activities. So if support cannot be provided, countries should reconsider, I guess, their offer to co-chair some of the research groups. In terms of flagships, we strongly support flagship concept, although the success will depend on adequate resourcing. So it's really important that flagships and the projects that come together to form a flagship, that these are supported, that there's funding coming with them, and that we can then add extra value to the potentially nationally or EU funded projects in a global approach. In 2021, we've had a successful call for new flagships, And we've continued to shortlist these, where we've finished a shortlisting process, and a number of these flagship proposals are being developed. And we're helping and working with those to refine and seek support for their project, and trying to bring these to full flagship projects, which you will hear about as part of the meetings this week. We would also like to acknowledge the key role of the Special Representative of the GRA and his efforts to develop flagship concepts and coordinate and mobilise resources. And Hayden has been extremely helpful to us, I guess, in relation to funded projects and that funding call, the Aerogas call, where low middle income countries were encouraged to get involved and in some cases lead projects, which was really exciting. And Hayden, we acknowledge your work in helping us in that regard, and I guess in supporting as well the flagships from the proposal stage right through to their kind of finalized and more refined stage. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you to all of the co-chairs for your work over the year and your comprehensive reports. Also, thank you to the research teams for their outstanding work over the last year. Now we will open the floor for questions and comments to the research groups. We will be joined by all the co-chairs that are here with us. So if you would like to make a comment or a question, you could either leave it on the chat or raise your hand and we will open the floor for you. The first questions comes from Brazil. So Gustavo, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I was just fighting here with the microphone, but I think it's okay now. Well, thank you very much. It's always very elucidative and relevant. All this process and the sharing with project leaders of the groups and the GRA. And I hope we can continue that. And I hope one of the major spirits of the GRA is inclusiveness and getting more involvement of countries. We hope that the GRA doesn't shift towards action between a few. So I'm quite a bit shocked to hear from Livestock Research Group the idea that countries should refrain for getting involved with the coordination of the programs if resources are not sufficient. I hope we could at this stage get past that idea, and will be willing to look at alternatives and ways to foster and enhance collaboration and bringing different ideas to the table. So I hope this is very clear and abundantly clear. This is not acceptable. This shouldn't be the way the GRA operates. Not on basis on those who have the resources to pay will be the only ones that will be involved with the coordination of the projects. Brazil, for instance, is on a very difficult situation, and I have already said that. I hope that the message was clear, but if it's not, I can repeat myself for those who could not hear before. But Brazil is very willing to continue to cooperate and to share, and we have a lot of potential to do so. Nevertheless, sometimes financial will not be as much as sufficient, but we are trying to do our best. We have full commitment and support to our coordination, for example, that is done by Dr. Ladislau, and we Brazil fully support his role, and we definitely believe it's a very relevant one. So we hope that with this message, this is very clear at this stage, and we can move on trying to understand then ways to better collectively support those leaders. There are, by some means or others, lacking the necessary resource to be fully engaged in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brazil, for your comment. I would like to open the floor to our co-chairs, in particular to those of the Access Research Group, if they would like to comment on Brazil's reactions or they have an opinion about it. For the panel?
Yeah, I can comment.
Yes, Shani, please.
Okay, so I think really what we mean here is to have support from your research institutes and from the ministry as well. We get a lot of support in terms of my employers, say Teagasc and the Department of Agriculture in Ireland. And I think that's more what we mean in terms of our time and our in terms of resources, as in our projects that can contribute to the efforts of the GRA. So I don't believe it's fully a financial resourcing support in that context. I think really it's your time that you get support from your colleagues, from your managers, from your funders, and from the ministry. And I think that's really what's involved there. And we do get great support from Ireland, from Richard does in the UK, and Harry in New Zealand. And I think that's what makes it successful in terms of coordination or leadership within these research groups. And I'm not sure if Richard wants to add to that in terms of the livestock research group.
No, I don't think there's much to add there, Sinead. I mean, I think it's been very good, the recent development in terms of grant funding, where countries have put money that GRA has been able to use to involve low and middle income countries in proposals in a European framework, and I'm sure that same kind of thinking ought to apply if there are aspiring co-chairs in countries where there is a challenge for support, because I recognise that time is money in that sense. So it's a good point from Brazil. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In cash contribution, but in kind contribution is as important. And I think all member countries and partners or organizations are aware of that within the GRA. We still have the floor open for comments or further questions to our co-chairs.
May I make a point, please, Marta?
Yes, of course, Ladislav.
My point is first to thank you very much to Dr. Mark Libby from USDA ARS for his amazing contribution to our group. If you agree, please, Mark could include Mark in this talk, and if he is present in the meeting, he could to make a brief comment. And we're very thankful to him, to our contribution, to partnership in all that he brought to our Cropland Research Group. And besides to conclude my small comment, I believe that regarding the funds, you made from Cropland Research Group a recommendation. The possibility you are in our institution, you have been working together different corporations that are interested to invest and to have results associated to carbon neutrality, co-benefits, and other circularity that are themes from strong interest of private corporation. And naturally, this is not our decision, but for GRA could be a point. Naturally, they are working together, corporation, but it could create new mechanisms. This was one recommendation that is associated with funds to increase and to engage more our cooperation together. Thank you. Mark, I don't know, Marta, if I could include Mark, if possible.
Thank you, Ladislav, for your comment. And I believe we will move in that direction when we review the flagship proposals in the next agenda item. We have a request from the floor by our special representative. Hayden, we'll go with you.
Hi everyone. Yes, I just wanted to offer some information on work that's been done in the Secretariat, in particular by Katja Besanova, who's involved in the coordination of the Cliff Grads program based in National University Ireland, Galway. We have been observing, as has been mentioned by co-chairs, that there is a need to try to assist the individuals who have the responsibilities of being co-chairs or network leaders, and we are exploring whether we can actually draw on the enthusiasm and interest of our Cliff Grads alumni to give them opportunities to get alongside our co-chairs and coordinators where they have a particular interest in the thematic of the network or the research group, and perhaps offer some of their time to support such coordination. And in return, of course, they have much more integration into these global networks, which presumably would be of value to them in their early stage of their career. So some thinking is going on. We've done some, I guess, analysis of where networks could benefit from some support, and in the coming weeks we will be able to communicate more with all of you. So it's a valid concern raised by everyone, and there are ways to resolve that, drawing on the sort of the breadth of the networks that we've developed over the last decade.
Thank you, Hayden, for your contribution. We have another request from the floor from Bangladesh. We welcome Dr. Natu Ramsaka. Please, Bangladesh, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for allowing me to say something in this occasion. I'd like to mention something regarding the livestock research group. Bangladesh is nowadays Bangladesh is committed. Our government is committed to reduce the climate change, especially the methane emission from the crops and livestock sector in our country. So there are some assistance from the ED and also some of the government initiatives which also ongoing in our country. So can we take help from in the livestock research group? Our objective is to we have to give the third communication procedure. We have to country specific country emission factor in the livestock sector. Can we take help from the livestock research group to estimate the country emission factor in case of livestock in our country? So we are nowadays we are doing what we usually some methods, but we need the technological help or the knowledge from the livestock research group from GRA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bangladesh, for this comment. We also have congratulations to the work of our co-chairs and the research groups from the USA that's on the chat. Thank you. I think we all agree on the hard work, the research groups and the leading role, significant leading role our co-chairs have carried out over the last year. I will offer the floor for further comments or questions, if there is any, either in the chat or please raise your hand. If there are no further requests from the floor, I will offer a final round of comments to our panel, to the co-chairs. They would like to add something or make a precision on certain things. There is a question. Oh, sorry. Yes, please.
Following up on the comments from Bangladesh, certainly we can put colleagues in your research organizations ensure that they're in contact with the relevant networks. I'm imagining most likely the Feed and Nutrition Network and the Manure Management Network may be most relevant, but wherever, and also in terms of contacts with colleagues who work on emissions factors. There's probably more of that expertise in the integrative research group than in the livestock research group, but we can certainly help out there.
Yes, I was going to add that comment as well, Richard, that the inventories and NDC network has been working with the agriculture compilers and looking at sort of resources available to various countries and sharing experiences and where they're getting the numbers from. So working with the inventories in Hazel Tomlin would be good there too.
Thank you. We have a comment and a question in the chat from Kavi in relation to the work that the GRA is carrying out or may carry out on estimating the emissions from pesticides use or the development of nature-based solutions. I don't know if there is any work going on in any of the research group on this topic, maybe the Cropland group, or is something we would like to look into it during the next year. Yes, Ladislao, please.
Cropland Research Group. Thank you very much for a nice, important question. Currently, I will say specifically about our experience in Brazil, like Dr. Gustavo Moser mentioned, you have the low carbon agriculture plan. It's a plan to incentivize farmers to adoption of sustainable practice. One of them is associated with bio inputs, include biological nitrogen fixation, biological control. That is the point that was mentioned by Representative of CABI regarding the pesticide substitution or reduction of use. For sure, at least in our country, we have extensive research work done, more than research, they are adopted by farmers for a long time. One of the best example that you have is biological nitrogen fixation. That is amazing contribution to soybean crop. That is the main crop currently in our country. And for sure, this is an important point, and I will be happy to help in this matter if GRA and the other group also believe that is a good recommendation.
Thank you, Ladislao, for that information and the clarification. Thank you also to Kavi for raising this relevant topic. Are there any other comments or questions for our panel?
I think I would just add
yes,
from
please.
the Integrative Research Group, some of the activities are starting to engage much more the private sector around sort of the circular food systems, but also the new Orcasa project really is trying to operationalize carbon sequestration and the MRV verification of soil carbon sequestration. So there are projects moving that way. It's obviously an interest of researchers, I guess, are being approached. They see activities with the farming sector, and so I think it's good for us to see how that can interface, and some of these projects are starting to do that.
Thank you for your contribution and complementing comment. We have further questions in the chat from the UK in relation to the use of pesticides and emissions associated to it and implications for the IPCC accounting as inventory reporting, because those emissions are not necessarily related to the agricultural sector, but rather to the energy or industrial products sectors reporting in the inventories. So there is a comment there from the UK in relation to how relevant this will be to the work of our GRA. So I don't know, Luke, if you would like to further elaborate on your comment. If not, just for our panel to consider this contribution from the UK. Would you like to further elaborate, UK, on this? Yes, I think we are ready for you now.
Thank you. Sorry, I was struggling with the unmute function. It was more a passing comment, really. I mean, many of the emissions associated with pesticide use are out with the IPCC agricultural sector, but as Hayden pointed out, there are important linkages, of course, between crop health and overall emissions from production. So these are some areas where the Croplands Group could potentially help out, but it was just an observation that in terms of agrochemical manufacture and application to land, these aren't necessarily strengths for the Alliance.
Thank you. Thank you for the elaboration. I think Gabi will get in contact with Ladislau, with the Cropland Research Group for further collaboration on this matter, as reported in the chat. If there are no further comments or from our panel, any more additions, then we will close up this section and we will go with Alfonso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now we will have a short 10-minute break. Stay with us and see you in a little while.
Portupas.
El Instituto de Investigaciones Agropecuarias INIA es una institución de investigación, desarrollo e innovación agroalimentaria vinculada al Ministerio de Agricultura de Chile. Fue creado el 8 de abril de 1964 como corporación de derecho privado sin fines de lucro. Hoy, cerca de 1.000 personas altamente calificadas conforman su equipo de trabajo. El instituto tiene presencia en todo el territorio nacional a través de sus 10 centros regionales, oficinas técnicas, campos y centros experimentales. Cuenta también con una red de bancos de germoplasma, 17 laboratorios especializados, cerca de 160 estaciones agrometeorológicas al servicio de la innovación científica del país y una nutrida red de vinculación internacional. En la actualidad, INIA trabaja en 5 áreas temáticas priorizadas para responder a los desafíos de la agricultura: cambio climático, sustentabilidad, alimentos del futuro, tecnologías emergentes y extensión, transferencia tecnológica y formación de capacidades. Anualmente, el instituto ejecuta un promedio de 400 proyectos de investigación, desarrollo, innovación, extensión y transferencia tecnológica, con financiamiento público y privado proveniente de fondos nacionales e internacionales. En sus más de 55 años de historia, INIA ha contribuido al desarrollo de Chile por medio de la creación de nuevas variedades de frutales, nuevas y mejores variedades de cultivos y cereales que hoy lideran en participación de mercado, introducción y validación de especies con potencial productivo que son parte relevante de la oferta exportadora nacional, el rescate de especies nativas y la puesta en valor de ingredientes y bioinsumos. Asimismo, ha aportado a la conservación de los recursos genéticos y microbianos como patrimonio de la humanidad, al desarrollo de técnicas sustentables para el manejo y control de plagas y enfermedades, a la extensión de tecnologías que favorecen la productividad de agricultores y ganaderos, mejorando su calidad de vida, y a la adaptación del sector agropecuario a los nuevos escenarios de cambio climático. INIA se proyecta como institución líder en I+D+I para el desarrollo agroalimentario sostenible de Chile, creando valor y proponiendo soluciones innovadoras a los agricultores, socios estratégicos y a la sociedad. INIA, más de 55 años liderando el desarrollo agroalimentario sostenible de Chile.
Hello, and welcome back to the Global Research Alliance Council 2022, Day 2. Continuing with the ceremony, we will be reviewing new flagship projects.
Thank you for joining us again. We will move now to the agenda item number 3 for Day 2 of our GRA Council meeting 2022. This is the revision of proposed flagship projects. For this, we will welcome our speakers one by one, and we will carefully pay attention to these reports and presentations. To start with, we would like to welcome Dr. Klaus de Blitz, who will be providing the first presentation.
Our project is called GHG Mitigation in Cattle Farming. How much is possible, where, and what are the economic implications on farm? So we are very happy that we could win council champions from all continents. The start date is foreseen to be March 22, and the duration should be 3 to 5 years. We would like to investigate feasibility and cost effectiveness of GHG mitigation strategies at farm level in the beef, cattle, and dairy sector. And we think that we can complement existing GRA research work with economic expertise from the AgriBenchmark network. We will do a practice change analysis, which means we will compare a baseline versus different mitigation strategies. And we will use the typical farm approach that is applied in the AgriBenchmark network. So what are the characteristics and outcomes? So first of all, this project and its methods are globally applicable. We can also work in countries with limited official statistics data because we integrate experts and producer knowledge. We do a lot of work around standardization. So we did that in the area of production systems and economics in the last 20 years. And we are planning to extend this to accounting for GHG emissions because we have to standardize the measurement of emissions before looking at the economics of mitigation. So we have data availability in the two areas, economics, production system, as well as emission. And whatever is there will be complemented by the missing part. And in some cases, we have to redo the whole thing. And the plan is also, once we have done the first results on farm level, we have the objective to upscale the results and analysis in a second step to make allow wider use of this. The outcome should be to identify and analyze the most cost-effective management and technology options in different global production systems and regions, to provide evidence-based policy recommendation on GHG mitigation strategies, and to build a database over time for farm-level assessment of GHG mitigation strategies related to costs and benefits. Yeah, you can see here the current participants and resources. So the idea is that we start with existing personnel and project resources and identify funding possibilities based on an intermediate result. We have, as you can see, a list of countries here again from various countries. So apart from the countries representing the council champions, we also have Portugal, Ghana, and Belgium in this list, all of which have committed to participate in the project. So opportunities for involvement, that is of course open to further GRA members and countries and colleagues and experts. We do have existing project and personnel resources, and in some countries we would need funding support. And skills we are looking for are expertise on GHG emission measurement at farm level in beef and dairy, and or expertise in economic analysis at farm level in the beef and dairy sector. And I already mentioned the various ways to enter the activity. I will not repeat this. So whatever you have will be used, and whatever you don't have will be added. And in just some cases, we would have to add the whole data, both economic, production system, and emissions. Yeah. So the next steps we are planning is to produce first results for beef and dairy with selected countries, to probably be presented on the 17th of June 2022 within the scope of our AgriBenchmark Beef and Sheep Conference. We are also planning to produce a joint publication by end of 22. And we are also going to discuss further possible collaboration with other GRA networks and EU projects that are going on. Yeah, and then of course we need to, based on all these intermediate results, we will identify funding opportunities for the next steps to make it more deep analysis, and also to broaden the scope in terms of countries and production systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. De Blitz, for your presentation. Now we welcome the following flagship project, who will be introduced by our special representative, Hayden Montgomery. Hayden, please, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I'm really pleased to present this proposed flagship project, which is on satellite monitoring of quality and quantity and quality of available biomass and pastoral livestock systems. Really pleased to say that so far, in terms of council champions, we have Canada, Uruguay, Costa Rica, Fontagro, one of our partners, New Zealand, Argentina, and Ireland, and I would anticipate more over time. I should note that while I'm leading this presentation, I would not be the person leading the implementation of the project. Remote sensing is not my area of expertise, but I have led the coordination of bringing together a number of groups to form what we hope is a flagship in the context of the GRA. The project would have a duration of about 4 years, and it would commence, at least components of it would commence already this year. The objective of the project is to use spaceborne remote sensing information coupled with modeling approaches and comprehensive field sampling to do a number of things. One, to identify and classify types of grasslands and rangelands, monitor their characteristics, and in particular the estimates of the quantity and quality of the biomass available. And with quality, we're here talking about things like digestibility, crude protein content, energy content, those variables that are really important for estimating greenhouse gases. Through remote sensing, the hope is to do this in real time and with adequate precision to improve the monitoring of greenhouse gas emissions and removals in pastoral systems, and to provide tools for improved decision-making for grazing management, both through time and in space, for climate mitigation and adaptation. As I mentioned, this is a kind of collection of groups that have already, in some cases, formed and are already funded. So you'll see there a lot of different participants from Latin America, from Europe, from Africa, from Australasia, Asia, and as well as some industry groups that have a strong interest in, of course, improving the sustainability of dairy or beef production or ruminant production in grazing systems. We have a really interesting cross-section of expertise from these different institutions. In terms of resources available, already there is $1.3 million secured to allow the project to commence in a subset of those participating institutions. We have a very significant in-kind contribution coming from other organizations mentioned there, and further resources would be sought to support expanded participation in the project. It's really great to see how For example, our collaborations through CliffGrads or the Roof Forum Partnership have been able to identify partners in some of these countries to bring into this proposal. So the opportunities for involvement would be through the contribution of historical and future field data sampling from diverse grassland rangeland ecosystems with the associated site information with that data. Contributing other remote or proximal sensing information or capabilities to complement the spaceborne information that is the current primary focus, and also contributing with new image processing techniques, development of predictive models, etc. So there's ample opportunity for people to be involved, and we hope this would attract enough support to be approved and really deliver something new for the benefit of all members of the GRA. This is trying to develop the ability to do this anywhere and everywhere where you have grassland and rangeland ecosystems. So that will conclude my presentation, and I believe I have the privilege to now introduce the next presenter, who is actually also acting as our chair of this meeting. So I'd like to invite Marta Alfaro from INEA Chile to talk about the proposed flagship on nitrogen fertilizers.
Thank you, Hayden. This new flagship proposal is called the development of context-specific emission factors from the application of nitrogen fertilizer. It has been championed at the moment by New Zealand, Costa Rica, Fontagro, Spain, Ireland, and of course our country, Chile. We all recognize that the emission from nitrogen fertilizer use is in most of our countries a key category in our inventory reporting, so that we have proposed that this project start in March 2022 and it will last for 4 years, we believe. We would like to develop further level 2 emission factor for the emission of fertilizer use across different agricultural systems and ecosystems. This will, of course, reflect an emission factors for direct emissions, but also for indirect emissions associated to ammonia volatilization and leaching losses, for instance. There is information around the globe, and although the IPCC carried out and published the 2019 refinement or further refinement of the 2006 guidelines, we believe there is still missing information and available data around the globe that can be compiled and further produce emission factors for different productive systems, as I explained. So we will have a mix of analyzing using different statistical approach, already existing data around the globe, and we will be including new field measurements when required. At the moment, we have a wide range of institutions interested in participating in this proposal. You can see them there on the slide from different continents, from Europe, from Oceania, and of course from Latin America as well. And we have included the private sector as a key actor as well, for instance, through the International Fertilizer Association. At the moment, in relation to the resources, there is an in-cash contribution estimated at $400,000 American dollars available that have been set aside, in particular for new research and new measurements, field measurements, as well as in-kind contribution with existing data in different research teams around the globe. In relation to the opportunities for involvement, we believe that in your countries or organizations are data available in relation to emissions from nitrogen fertilizer use in different ecosystems and agricultural systems, including rice, cropland, and livestock. Please get in contact with us. We are looking forward to being able to analyze that information using different approaches. And we are following the example set, for instance, by the Dataman initiative already here in the GRA, where pre-existing data was analyzed and published, and now is accepted by the IPCC to be included for the development of emission factors that can be used in different countries. We are also looking forward to the expertise and data analysis, modeling, etc., that could complement the work that we have been planning. And of course, if there is new funding or other initiatives starting in your countries, we are looking forward to match those and complement the efforts this proposal it's taking in consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Marta Alfaro. And now is the turn for Ms. Sharon Hughes.
Hi, so my name is Sharon Hughes and I run the Rumen Microbial Genomics Network, and I'd like to present to you an idea for a GRA flagship project, which is called the Hungate Collection, A Second Coming. So we have numerous champions for this project, many people supporting it. The names you see before you there are just a few of those, but we have representation across the world. So my proposal is that this project should start somewhere around June, and it should be 2 years initially, but there is flexibility around that. And this is really centered around the fact that the Hungate collection flagship was really successful and provided a major step change for the community in terms of our understanding of the rumen microbiome and what we could do to manipulate them and to utilize some of the genetic resources. But the Hungate collection also revealed quite a lot of gaps in our culture collection. So we're missing quite substantial numbers of rumen bacteria. And this hampers our ability to develop innovation further. So the timing is right for us now to have a global effort into culturing some of these livestock gastrointestinal tract microbiomes. And the timing is particularly good at the minute because there has been quite a lot of time given to culturing microbes across different environments. So we now have a lot of technologies that we wouldn't have had before. And in actual fact, in many of the labs across the world, we're already finding that we can culture more of the rumen microbes than we thought possible. So the benefits of getting some of these microbes out into our culture collections are to actually help us with our sequencing projects. So if we have more of these genomes underpinning our sequencing efforts, we will be able to annotate and assemble our metagenomes a little bit better. So it gives us a bit more understanding. Also, our sequencing-based efforts have largely been correlative, so they give you a correlation to a particular phenotype. But by having these rumen microbes in culture, you can go on to test causation to see whether they have an effect on that particular phenotype. And also we can use them as probiotics and direct fed microbials to change the fermentation in the rumen. And not only that, they are a genetic resource that will be full of enzymes for the industrial industry. So I've been talking about this flagship now probably for the last 2 years. So we've had a lot of discussion. We have had a lot of workshops amongst the community, and we have identified across the world how we would go about this. So Queen's University Belfast, where I'm based, would be the main hub. But there are numerous laboratories across the world that also have the capacity and capability to culture rumen microbes. And these are shown across the map that you see on the side there. And we are actually asking if there are any more people who would like to take part in culturing. But this is not to the detriment of the LMIC countries who may not have the capacity or the capability in the laboratories to culture. This is very inclusive. What we're trying to do is set up these labs across the world so that everybody from every country can send their samples to the nearest hub in order to culture the rumen microbes out from those samples. And then with obviously, if appropriate, what we would like to do then is deposit them into some of the culture collections across the world so that they become available to the whole community to use to test hypothesis. And we also know with our partners in AAFC in Canada, they already have around 200 of rumen microbes in their freezers, which are novel and have yet to be sequenced. So all of the people that would be involved in this project would become a part of a major publication, whether you've sent samples or whether you've been the main hub or the co-hub. This will involve everybody. And in actual fact, we need the samples from some of the LMIC countries because the forages that the animals are fed will be very different. So likely we will culture some very interesting organisms from those samples. And also we will train staff from LMIC countries via the Cliff Grads program, for example. So training will be a big component, and that is in all of the hubs and the co-hubs. So we have already had numerous workshops, like I said, in order to get involved with this initiative. I have emailed the RMG network members, asked for their desire to be involved as a co-hub or their willingness to send samples already. And the response rate has been high, but we would continue to do this. We would continue to have the workshops, continue to communicate in order to ensure that everybody can be involved because it's a project for the whole community. And what we ask for is a minimum of 2 years of a postdoctoral scientist's time. And again, we would welcome a scientist from anywhere in the world with anaerobic microbiology experience or the willingness to learn. We are very happy to fund 30% of the consumables associated with the project in order to isolate and genome sequencing more of these novel isolates. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Hughes, for your presentation. If you have experienced difficulties with the transmission or with the slide size, we will make available all presentations and the recordings of our session at the GRA site once the meeting is finished. In relation to the flagship proposals, the documents have been provided by the Secretariat in preparation to our council meeting, and they are available at the drive folder provided by the Secretariat. To continue with the flagship presentations, we welcome the proposal by Dr. David Yanez.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good evening or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is David Yanez from the Spanish Research Council. I'm co-chair of the Feed and Nutrition Network of the Laboratory Research Group. And I'd like to present also on behalf of my colleague, Andrea Banning, the proposal of the flagship project entitled Technical Guidelines to Develop Feed Additives to Reduce Enteric Methane. Well, the idea would be to start the project around September or the last part of 2022 and run it for 2 years. And the rationale behind this proposal has two main elements. The first one is the increasing interest and need to cut down methane emissions worldwide. And one of the targets being methane emissions from enteric fermentation in ruminants, and the potential that has been shown through the use of feed additives to manipulate rumen fermentation, which is the origin of this methane produced and emitted to the atmosphere. The second element of the rationale is despite the extensive research effort that has been conducted over the last 10, 15 years, this had not resulted in many additives to be successfully used in the market or across different systems. And a very recent work conducted by Hegarty et al. That was in part promoted by the Global Research Alliance has shown that the livestock sector has a very limited suite of emerging feed additives suitable for enteric methane suppression. And many constraints have been identified. And for instance, a poor understanding of the efficacy of these additives, the lack of knowledge of, in most cases, of the mode of action, the uncertainty about the persistency of the effects, and insufficient research in practical applicability in different systems, especially in pastoral systems. So to address these constraints, we set up the objectives of the flagship project. The main objective is to facilitate the development of feed additives to reduce enteric methane emissions with two specific objectives. The first one is to provide technical guidelines and protocols on good practices on how to test and develop feed additives of different nature. So not only chemically synthesized additives, but also essential oils, algae additives, saponins, tannins, antimicrobial peptides, etc. So a wide range of compounds. And the target of these technical guidelines and protocols will have three main elements. The first one would be the efficacy and the delivery options across a range of systems. Then trying to uncover and reveal the mode of action of these compounds, so we know when it works or when it doesn't and why. And also to provide assistance on how to evaluate, to assess the persistency of the effects of these different compounds. The second specific objective would be to facilitate the registration process and accounting also for the reduction emissions in greenhouse gases inventories at a regional or national level. So reductions that come from the use of these feed additives. There are different benefits that partners or members of the Global Research Alliance could get from participating in this project. For instance, by initiating and stimulating a globally active network of different countries investigating and evaluating feed additives, the standardization of experimental methods, and also to be aware of potential limitations related to the methodology. Also improved capabilities to test different additives across a range of systems. The increased applicability of compounds or additives that are now at the front of the development process. So those that can have potential, but because they are not dealt by powerful companies or big research institutes have potential, but they haven't been addressed sufficiently. And also facilitate the registration and accounting for greenhouse gases inventories, as I mentioned before. In terms of the participants, well, the Feed and Nutrition Network of the Global Research, of the Livestock Research Group of the Global Research Alliance is the foundation of this flagship project proposal. Contains researchers with wide expertise in the use of different feed additives. Many publications co-authored by members of the Feed and Nutrition Network from the countries, as you can see, and the institutions you can see on the slide, and there is more detailed information on those institutions in the document provided to the Secretariat. In terms of resources, we are participating in a number of projects that can provide some resources. For instance, I'm coordinating the recently awarded Horizon Europe Re-Livestock project, which deals with different innovations to reduce greenhouse gases emissions from livestock husbandry, and we can support from that project part of the coordination of this flagship project. Other projects like Horizon 2020 Master, or different national projects like Methane Abate from Ireland. There is also potential to link with other initiatives like the Cliff Gratz Fellowship Program that can provide PhD students the opportunity to work for 6 months on this particular project, also linked to cost actions proposals that now can also include non-European countries. What is clear is that to run this project, we will need to gain funding to have a postdoc or a researcher with experience in animal nutrition and greenhouse gases emissions. So he or she can coordinate gathering the data from the different institutions and researchers participating, and also process that data before the guidelines can be actually produced. Also, other links can be established with, for instance, open calls like the one from Frontagro on sustainability and resilience that is currently opened, and potentially as well linked with the flagship proposal from the Rumen Microbial Genomics Network on culturomics, and which can help to uncover some of the mode of action of some compounds that have clearly a link with the microbial activity in the rumen, and other initiatives like RNA Susan projects or international organizations that might be interested in the work to be conducted in the in the flagship project. In terms of opportunities of involvement, if the project is selected and is successful, then it can provide experience in experimental feed additive research, both in vitro and in vivo, and also modeling of rumen fermentation processes to those partners and researchers involved, and development of pharma accounting and national inventory methodology linked to the use of these feed additives. So as I said before, you have more information in the document provided to the Secretariat. I wish you all a very pleasant and successful council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yañez, for your presentation. Now we move to the last flagship proposal by Dr. Cynthia Rosenberg.
Hello, and thank you for inviting AGMIP to present to the Global Research Alliance Council meeting. This is really an update from our presentation last time about the Mitigation and Adaptation Co-Benefits project, which we are now evolving into a proposal for a GRA flagship project. The leader is the Agricultural Model Intercomparison and Improvement Project, and the Council champions are to be confirmed. There is an ongoing pilot study in Bangladesh that's going on right now from September 2021 and will end at the end of this year, December 2022. Building on what we're learning from the Bangladesh pilot study, we anticipate expanding MACB to other countries with full 3-year projects in the coming few years. The MACB flagship project will develop tools by which national stakeholders can learn how mitigation strategies in agriculture will interact with the changing climate, as well as how adaptation interventions would affect mitigation as well. The flagship project will build on the GRA expert community to develop and apply new protocol-based methods for providing country-level decision makers the evidence base needed to ensure that mitigation strategies have lasting impact. The project will generate new knowledge with high scientific impact, contributing to the development of the nationally determined commitments, NDCs. In the current pilot project, we have a great group of participants and institutions, research team members, and their institutions across Bangladesh, both government and university. And the team is also made up of AGMIP researchers and modelers from around the world as well. That project was funded, and we're very grateful for the funding from the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research, ACR. there are tremendous opportunities for involvement across GRA with MACB flagship. First, in terms of the funding, we will be seeking funding from GRA countries and their country members who are interested in furthering this kind of work to leverage the great work of GRA and mitigation already, to fund assessments in their own region and other countries of interest. And there's also great opportunities across the research teams of GRA. The home base of the MACB project is the Integrative Research Group, but the Paddy Rice research team, croplands, and livestock research groups will have opportunities to participate, to apply their data and their tools and models to together co-develop MACB protocols for a range of agricultural systems. Final word, the bringing together the changing climate into our understanding of mitigation and how the changing climate and adaptations to the changing climate may affect mitigation is at the heart of the MACB project. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Rosenbach, for your presentation. We'll now open the floor for general comments or questions about any of the flagship proposals that have been presented today. I believe there were a couple of questions in the chat in relation to the inclusion on any other member country or partner organization to the existing proposals. That, of course, is the case and the spirit of the GRA. I believe we got a question from Bangladesh. Please, the floor is yours. If you could unmute the microphone.
Yeah. I already unmute. So thank you very much. The last project is already been implementing in Bangladesh, and there is a Keep Up workshop. I was present in this workshop in a virtual meeting. This is very good work. I think so. The paddy rice and the crop, and there is opportunity to involve the livestock in this MACB project also. I think that. I have my own comments regarding the microbiota. Regarding the microbiota, I think that this is a very good project in future. Based on that, there's a lot of scope for mitigation based on the microbes available in the ruminant system in the different species of livestock. Usually, I have a comments regarding the microbiota identification. Usually, it is different on the species also. There is a difference between the buffalo and the cattle also. In our country, there is a species we call it the Bos frontalis. How can I identify? If we supply the rumen liquor or microbiota, how can identify the microbes available in this Bos frontalis? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your intervention. And as we have seen in the chat as well, and then again, if any member country or organization would like to join any of the flagship proposals presented today, please get in contact with the leader who presented today, and all the connections will be made. Are there any other questions or comments to any of the proposals we have heard this morning? If there are no further comments or questions to our proposals, I will kindly ask the Council to consider the following aspects. The first three proposals presented today. This is remote sensing, mitigation and cattle farming, and air fertilizer fulfill all the requirements established by the GRA to be supported. So I will kindly ask the Council to endorse these three proposals. If there is no opposition to this proposal, we then congratulate the 3 proposals and we will endorse them as part of our council minute. For the pending 3 proposals, this is feed additives, adaptation and mitigation co-benefits, and hand-gate collection. There is still support that need to be highlighted and fulfilled. So we will open the discussion for each one of these proposals to seek the endorsement by the council. We will start with the feed additives proposal, and we have with us Dr. David Yanez-Ruiz. In case there will be further discussion or questions to the initiative. If there are
Hello,
no...
Marta.
Yes, please, David. If you...
Yeah, I don't know if there are any further questions.
We have one question, a hand raised by the UK. If you would like to make a statement before that, David?
No, I wait for the questions first.
Okay, so please, we welcome the UK. And we go with Luke.
Many thanks, David. The proposal sounded really interesting. And I apologise if I've missed it. I was wondering if there was a written pro forma on the kind of description of the work programme that we could look at in a bit more detail. In principle, it sounds very interesting, but I think we need to kind of consider it in terms of the overall shape of the proposal that's been set out.
Mm-hmm. David, would you like to comment, please?
Yes, thank you, Luke. Well, there is a more detailed description of the proposal in the Word document that's been, I believe, circulated by the Secretariat, in which there is a description of the different steps that we seek to follow in terms of establishing the network and initiating the work, and also in terms of the resources that we have already secured through European funding, and also the kind of model that we would like to follow in terms of establishing what kind of technical document we want to provide, which is in a way similar to what the Global Research Alliance has been supported for all the very useful technical documents like that on the use of methane chambers, for instance, in the Livestock Research Group. So there is a bit more detailed description in the document, and the project obviously has been discussed as part of the Feed and Nutrition Network in different meetings, and there was high interest from many active researchers, including some from the UK, which are very interested in participating and helping the scientific community and the livestock sector to be able to develop further feed additives to reduce methane emissions.
Thank you, David, for complementing the information. We have in the chat also the confirmation of New Zealand as a champion for this proposal. So thank you, New Zealand, for that. Are there any other comments or maybe questions to this proposal, or another countries or partners organization that would like to endorse this initiative? Okay. Thank you, everyone, then. Thank you, David, for being with us today.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, David, would you like to add something?
If I can, yes. Well, just
of course.
to say that Ireland also stated the support to the project, and I know that Spain is also supporting as a champion the project.
Thank you, David. Then we'll have 4 member countries supporting the initiative. We have the UK, New Zealand, Ireland, and Spain so far, further to the partners organizations participating in the initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marta.
And also the USA has already written in the chat that it's championed this initiative as well. So thank you to the USA and to Zimbabwe that has already indicated in the chat their support. I think with the information we have now, I will kindly ask then to the Council to endorse this new flagship, given that the champions are being met, the requirements for the champions have been met during this discussion. If that is the case, then we thank Dr. Yanez again for their presentation and to the research team for developing this new flagship for the GRA. Now we will move forward to the following initiative. This is the proposal on adaptation and mitigation co-benefits, MACB, presented by Dr. Cynthia Rosenweig. Thank you, Cynthia, for joining us today. So we will open the floor for questions or comments to Cynthia and to the colleagues that have prepared this flagship.
If I could have a word, just a brief introduction.
Yes, of course.
I believe that one of our project members, a senior project member from Bangladesh, is also attending this meeting. His name is Dr. Ghulam Hussain, and if appropriate, he might offer a few words also about the MACB pilot project. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. So if you please raise your hand if you would like to make an addition to Cynthia's comment before we move into the questions and answers from the Council. Then we can identify you and open the camera for you. No? Okay. I think it'll be enough with your comments, Cynthia. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you very much. He was on earlier. Perhaps he had to dip off.
Perfect. If in any case, if you want to join us later, that's just let us know. So we open the floor now for the Council for comments, questions, or expression of support to this MACB initiative. Please raise your hand or leave us a note in the chat. There are no comments in the chat, neither a specific expression of support. In that case, we'll kindly ask the Council that this initiative will be still pending until it finds further support from the other countries. Australia is expressing their support to this MACB initiative. Thank you, Australia, for that. We could still go back to this tomorrow in our meeting tomorrow, the session of day 3. So if you would like to further discuss or read the documents available on this initiative, we could further discuss it and come back to it tomorrow. We have also the support from the USA to the MACB initiative. So at the moment, Australia and the USA have confirmed their interest in taking this flagship forward. So thank you, Cynthia. We will have this pending for tomorrow, for our agenda tomorrow, and we can come back to it.
Thank you, Dr. Alfaro, and thank you to all Council members.
Thank you. Finally, we will open the floor and a more elaborated conversation in relation to the Handgate collection proposal presented by Dr. Sharon Hughes. Thank you, Sharon, for joining us today.
Thank you, Marta.
Would you like to complement your presentation and provide more information to the Council, maybe?
Not at this point. I think I'll just await any questions.
Perfect. Thank you. So we'll open the floor for comments or questions to Sharon and to the team that elaborated this flagship proposal, or the expression of interest from the Council. So we'll open the floor now. If you would like to express your interest and support, please leave us a note in the chat or raise your hand so that we can take note of it. It seems that there is no further comments or questions to the proposal, and we are there is support from the UK. The UK is proposing to endorse this flagship grant. So thank you to the UK for that. Do we have other member countries or partner organizations being interested in taking this flagship at the moment? As we have no further comments or endorsements from the floor at the moment, we will proceed as in the previous flagship proposal, and we will take it forward for tomorrow's session. And then we can come back to this and make sure we have the endorsement from the floor. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you, Marta.
So thank you very much to all presenters today and to the Council for the endorsements of this proposal. We will now move to agenda item number 4. And for this, we have two partners that have expressed interest in presenting today, and they will be joining us now. First, we have Mr. Rob Myers, Vice President of the SCI platform, that will share with us a short presentation, and then he will take further comments or questions from the floor. Please, Rob, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the time. Let me share my screen. Apologies.
No te oigo.
May not be able to share my screen. It seems I can't share my screen, but that's fine. I'll just talk it. I am the Vice President of the Executive Committee for the Sustainable Ag Initiative platform. I'm also Vice President of Sustainable Agriculture for PepsiCo in their Global Sustainability Office. Thanks for the time today. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the Sustainable Ag Initiative platform and talk a little bit about opportunities that we have to collaborate with GRA, which we are in discussion. The SCI platform is celebrating its 20th year anniversary this year. It was formed back in 2002 by 3 of the larger food companies, Nestle, Danone, and Unilever. PepsiCo joined a few years later. Today, the organization has more than 150 members and associate members ranging across the food system. And I would say SCI platform's sweet spot, or where we try to be additive, is in a collaborative platform for food companies and agribusiness to work pretty competitively to scale sustainable agriculture and regenerative agriculture. We share knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge sharing that occurs. And we work to develop practical implementation tools and processes that are common and again, pre-competitive across to support our members. And the membership is very active. We organize through working groups that are crop specific and topic specific. We recently launched a new initiative with member support on regenerative agriculture. It's called the Regenerative Agriculture Program. And we're working to develop an outcomes-based framework that is pre-competitive and collaborative. And there are several work streams associated with that, including an implementation work stream where we're going to be doing place-based work to demonstrate the value of regenerative agriculture practices and measure impact and outcomes. There's also a technical working group, which is going to dive into the challenges of measuring impact credibly. And I think that's one area where the GRA and SciPlatform can collaborate, is in working together on testing new innovations, new ways to measure outcomes. I think there's also an opportunity for a collaboration of people. We talked about the potential for internships and engagement with SciPlatform from members and PhD candidates and that sort of thing. And so we're still looking at opportunities to collaborate. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I look forward to what we might be able to do together moving forward. Hayden, if you have any other comments, please add.
Thank you, Rob, for these comments and presentation. We will open the floor for questions for you. At the moment, we have a hand raised from our special representative. We will go with you, Hayden.
Thank you, and thanks, Rob, for joining us and including with the delay we're having in the meeting. So I appreciate you staying there. Yeah, as Rob mentioned, well, SciPlatform, first of all, is our newest partner in the GRA. So we're really delighted to be able to connect them to that very significant food and beverage platform that has been around for a long time. And there are certainly ample opportunities for mutual benefit out of this partnership. And it brings a whole new dimension to the work of the GRA. And some of the things we've been hearing in the conversations in the GRA research groups around new and emerging priorities, particularly thinking about farm level activity. The SciPlatform members and their own relationships with producers could potentially provide us some very interesting opportunities to explore, around piloting activities on farms, etc. And I think what's really exciting is the possibility in CliffGrad's students hosted by companies during their PhD tenure, which would add a lot to the program, which is of course now, well, to date has been research institutions, universities as the hosts, but to give these students an opportunity for to be in the sort of in the private sector and the companies who are addressing sustainability would be a wonderful opportunity, I'm sure. So yeah, just appreciate the collaboration, and we will continue the discussions on the areas of cooperation. Our research groups can give thought to this as well in our networks about activities that would be of value to them, and then we can sort of finalize a work plan with SciPlatform and make that available to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Hayden, for those words. Of course, we're happy to have the SciPlatform with us at the GRA, and we are much looking forward to the collaboration that can be taken forward from this point onwards. I don't know if there is another comment from the floor to the SciPlatform, taking advantage of Rob's company today. Well, we thank you, Rob, for being with us today live, and we look forward to the work with SciPlatform and the GRA.
So do we. Thank you. Have a great meeting.
Thank you. As a next partner in our meeting, we have a presentation From the CGER and the Mitigate Plus project, we welcome Dr. Lou Berchot for this.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Welcome.
and are you able to see the presentation?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, you're able to.
If you
Very
could
good.
put it in the presentation mode.
Yes, I've just done that, so it should show up on the screen fairly shortly.
Yeah, wonderful, thank you.
The Consultative Group for International Agricultural Research, the CGIAR, is undergoing a reorganization at the moment. We have been running a number of programs for the past 10 years, and these programs were set to close and have closed on schedule. The CGIAR research programs, and I think you all know CCAFS, the Climate Change, Agriculture, and Food Security Program, which has been a partner in the GRA for the past 10 years. The next generation of our initiatives are somewhat smaller, more focused, and at the same time trying to focus more on a food systems approach, so a system-wide approach. And I'm leading the mitigation initiative towards improved greenhouse gas budgets and co-benefits in agri-food systems, which is the short name is Mitigate Plus. I'm co-leading this with my colleague Wei Zhang at the International IFPRI, the International Food Policy Research Institute, based in Washington, D.C., and I'm based at STIAT in Cali, Colombia. But this is a CGIAR-wide initiative. We have 10 of our institutions participating in this. So the context that we are taking this approach is that within the $12 trillion global food system, we recognize that it provides critical food and nutritional security, livelihoods, and socioeconomic benefits. At the same time, it generates externalities that increase burdens on the public sector, that constrain sustainable development, and in some cases exacerbate poverty. So we know, and it's well documented, that about a third of agricultural soils are degraded worldwide, that 20% of the world's aquifers are overexploited, that biodiversity loss is largely attributed to food production, and that a large percentage of commercial fish stocks are either fully fished or overfished. And the externality that we're trying to address in this particular initiative is that global food systems produce 21 to 37% of global greenhouse gas emissions, including emissions from land use change, and 72% of these emissions come from the global south, which is the focus of the CGIAR. Food systems are complex, we are trying to address this complexity through a multidimensional research approach, focusing not just on best practices and field scale work, but also looking at enabling environments, looking at the policy environment, the financial environment, looking at how food systems interact with energy, water, and commodities, and trying to take a full systems approach to this. Our objectives are, we have 6 objectives that we've outlined. The first is to increase stakeholder capacity to use tools, data analyses to design food system emissions reduction strategies. We want to promote a more evidence-based approach to emissions reductions and in the food systems. We want to increase the rigor and certainty in data, knowledge, tools, and improve food system greenhouse gas emission monitoring, and subsequently improve UNFCCC national communications. And I think we intersect very nicely with the GRA there, and we've been partners with you folks in these initiatives all along. We also want to work to co-design adaptation and on co-design adaptation and mainstreaming of low and negative emissions mitigation solutions based upon principles of gender and social equity. So we have a strong political and political economy approach to what we're doing in this initiative. We want to ensure that interventions targeting carbon sequestration and reduced greenhouse gas emissions are prioritized in the next generation of NDCs, and these are scaled up and out. They're underrepresented at the moment in NDCs, and we think that there's opportunities for ways forward in this. And we also want to see food systems approaches and low greenhouse gas emissions, climate resilient development that are high on the world's political agenda. So the initiative builds on over 2 decades of climate change mitigation research by the CGIAR. We have a lot of work on reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, the REDD+ agenda, quantifying the drivers of deforestation and the associated emissions, look at the sink potential and sustainable management of forests, and we've made many contributions to the Bond Challenge. In the climate smart agriculture area under CCAFS, we've worked a lot on reducing emissions in rice through residue and water management, livestock emissions through feed, diet formulation, rumen manipulation, N2O emissions reductions through biological nitrification inhibition, and looking at pro-pore opportunities for precision agriculture, increased soil carbon through integrated soil fertility management, agroecology, and regenerative practices. And more recently, we've been focusing a bit on the emissions associated with food loss and waste and looking at opportunities to reduce those. I want to say that this initiative is consistent with the Paris Agreement in that we focus on low emissions food systems development in a manner that does not threaten food production. And I need to make this point very clearly, that we take to heart the concerns outlined in Article 2.1 of the Paris Agreement and have fully integrated this into the design of this research program. We are looking at developing a number of innovations, looking at developing a food systems climate intervention planning framework to help cross-sectoral planning around food systems for greenhouse gas emissions reductions. We are looking at building some innovations into the greenhouse gas inventory framework that address food systems concerns, because these are new. These are not a traditional way that we work in greenhouse gas inventory, and we will be looking at opportunities to try and improve this area, including through our work on improved data and more transparent data. We will be developing socially inclusive decision support tools and frameworks, and greenhouse gas technology-derived scaling-ready climate solutions based upon CGIAR technologies. And we will develop a global knowledge hub for measurement, reporting, and verification. And I need to say that we have a strong political economy approach for system transformation that integrates gender, inclusion, employment creation across the initiative, looking at inclusion from the perspective of marginalized groups within society. In some regions, indigenous peoples will be a focus. People with other types of differences that are typically marginalized will be fully integrated into this. We have a strong social science and a political economy component to this research. We've organized the research in 5 work packages, 1 on strategy development and planning, the 2nd on closing evidence and data gaps, the 3rd using a living laboratory approach at the landscape scale. The 4th is scaling low emissions, climate resilient food systems and development. So this is about creating an enabling environment. So looking at the policy and the financial environments to scale up the innovations. And then an engagement agenda and transformation. We have 4 priority countries that we will start our work in 2022. Those are China, Vietnam, Kenya, and Colombia. In 2023, we're planning to expand to Bangladesh, Peru, and Ethiopia. And we are in contact with our stakeholders in all of these countries through a consultation process that we engage in to set these programs up and design them. Finally, our alignment with CGIAR impact areas. We are, of course, the primary mechanism by which the CGIAR is looking at achieving emissions reductions. We project that we will have emissions reductions of around 1.1 gigatons of CO2 equivalent per year across the 7 target countries by 2030. This represents a 6.2 reduction in global emission food systems. We also expect to enhance sinks, and we have not yet done those calculations, but we do expect it to be contributing to enhanced sinks through landscape restoration, soil restoration, forest landscape restoration, avoided deforestation. And we will be, of course, increasing climate resilience, because this is really focused on low emissions development, not mitigation pure and simple, but really connecting with the development agenda of the countries that we serve. So I will thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you to the CGIAR for this presentation, and for Lou for being with us today live, providing further information on the Mitigate Plus project. I will open the floor for questions or comments from our council. I can see a hand raised from Bangladesh. Please, Bangladesh. The floor is
thank you very much.
yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you very much for your nice presentation. And I think you targeted you start your project activities in Bangladesh. So far, I know you have already been some work with BARC. You know the BARC, Bangladesh Agriculture Research Council.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? I have seen that your project will be started in Bangladesh 2023. For that region, did you communicate to our the process being implemented in 2023, so that before that possibly you have communicated to our organization or the respective organization? In which organization you would like to involve in your process?
So we have had an initial consultation process in Bangladesh with the Ministry of Agriculture there, with several key universities. This has been led by our colleagues at the International Water Management Institute, and they conducted the consultation in a meeting that was held, I believe, in September or October. In late September, early October, there was a meeting with a number of stakeholders in Bangladesh. I cannot say whether BRC was specifically consulted, but I imagine that they were. So our colleagues work regularly in Bangladesh and know the landscape there and know the important players. But we're certainly available to provide any more information, and we of course have this year for extended consultation before we begin operations next year.
So thank you very much. For that reason, I can suggest you that BRC is an umbrella in our Nurse Institute. So first in the Ministry of Agriculture, and then BRC, and there another separate ministry, Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. We are the two ministries. We are working in the livestock, fisheries, and crop sector. So we have to involve those ministries also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment from Bangladesh. Are there any other questions? I see a hand raised by our special representative. Please, Hayden, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure if Lou was present yesterday when I gave an update, but I just wanted to express the appreciation, my own personally, but also as the GRA, for bringing us into the discussions on Mitigate Plus. I think, particularly in, as you know, Work Package 2 with data generation, emissions factors, etc., there's a lot of scope to link to the work of our research groups, as you would have seen today. And also, as I mentioned yesterday, the Cliff Grads program, it's a bit of a flagship program in itself of the GRA and CGIAR, so it's great that you've been able to secure some resources for the continuation of Cliff Grads, and look forward to integrating those students into the Mitigate Plus program once it's up and running.
Thanks, Hayden.
Thank you, Hayden, for remembering us of that point and the relevance of the CGIAR for our Cliff Grad Award program. Are there any other comments or questions for Lou? If not, Lou, you mentioned during your presentation the use of socially inclusive decision support tools. Could you please further elaborate maybe on that?
The CGIAR has been working on improving our approaches to socially inclusive participatory research. We recognize that many parts of the world, farmers are predominantly women, and that we need to take into account how agricultural innovations impact women, how they impact different segments of society, how they impact the landless. And we realize that there have been unintended negative consequences. Some of the work that we did on climate smart agriculture through the Climate Smart Villages program, we found actually disadvantaged women. And we take that was clearly contrary to what our objectives were. And we take that to heart and really want to make sure that we redouble our efforts in that area, so that we are not disadvantaging groups that are already disadvantaged in the agricultural sector, in the production sector. So this means that we've associated more social scientists with our initiative this time to begin to identify these issues before they become problems, to be more proactive. We're taking a living labs approach, which really is about turning the table a little bit on research and making the local communities more of a research partner with us, than us delivering solutions and trying to promote adoption of our technologies. So I think that it's learning the lessons from past experience. We're committed to making sure we don't repeat mistakes and that we actually learn from things that have happened before.
Thank you, Liu, for that clarification. And if we have no further comments or questions for the CGER, we thank you for joining us today live and for the collaborative work we carried out with the GRA.
Thank you for having me.
With this, we have finished our day 2 of the meeting, and we are aware that we reached the time allocated for this session. So I will pass to our Master of Ceremony for the closing of day 2.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today. This concludes day 2 of the Council meeting. We will see you tomorrow at 8:30 Chile Summer Standard Time, where we connect with the same link to day 3 of the Global Research Alliance Council meeting 2022. Thank you and goodbye.